everybody, and welcome to Pitch Perfect. We are a flesh and blood podcast that aims to educate, empower, and support the female community in flesh and blood. We are your hosts. I am Elaine. Hi. We also have Melody here.
Kia ora.
And today we are joined by the one and only Matt Rogers. Hi, Matt. How are you doing?
Hi, kia ora. How you doing?
Good.
For those of you who do not know, Matt is a man of many talents. He has founded the LGS franchise card merchants in New Zealand and currently has a raft of other businesses under his belt as well, including Geek Culture and an exciting new addition, Premier Card Grading. So, Matt, you are a decorated business tycoon, a flesh and blood caster.
Love it!
A flesh and blood caster now, and also a completely dominant player. So we have a lot to talk about today.
Also, I wouldn't go that far.
Yes. You're a jack of all trades, Matt.
Except the flattery. All right. We're gonna dive right in with a little icebreaker and some Lille talk. So, Melody, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, so we're hot off the back of Protour Lille. It was amazing to watch. Caught, I think, 80% of the games. So you competed. You also found your second calling as a caster, though you've been on a few times before. Share your experience with us at Lille, and what were your personal highlights from France, Matt?
Yeah, I think that the whole thing was fantastic. I think personally for me, I've talked to a lot of UK, German, and other European players over the last couple of years online, and it was really cool to just meet these people in person and sort of put a face to the name and have a chat. And it was a really kind of special moment there for me. The other thing, I guess, coming together with my teammates with Team Dragon Shield to do the testing house in France was a really cool experience again, and basically just being able to have fun playing around with things for the week there. And then probably one of my bigger personal highlights was definitely getting to play Dash again. Dash is one of my favorite heroes, and hasn't really been overly viable for the last year or possibly even longer than that. So it was really awesome that it was viable for this tournament, and I was right in there. There was no way I was not going to play that hero if it's playable. And then my teammates played it with me as well. Nick Butcher's a huge Dash fan as well. So yeah, we've been playing that deck since Arcane Rising came out and just loving it. So it was really, really cool to be able to play that hero. Unfortunately, the day 2 draft got me. I didn't do so well in that and ended up falling out of contention there. But overall, it was a really fun tournament, and I loved every round of it.
Bring back Dash. I mean, Dash is on a comeback.
I was not surprised to see you at Dash, but it was a really fun tournament to watch from stream, like from home. You were in the casting booth a little bit, and everyone did such a good job really bringing like the excitement of the venue to everyone who was watching at home. So congratulations on the way you performed that weekend. And of course, in true Pitch Perfect fashion, we want to talk a little bit about the representation of female players at Pro Tour 2. Your first draft pod had Erica Forslov of Sweden in it, and you guys played a really exciting, brilliant game against each other on stream. But we just had a question. So you were at Pro Tour New Jersey. Did you notice female player growth at the competitive level? Like, was there a difference between Pro Tour 1 and Pro Tour 2, do you think?
I mean, I wouldn't say there was a massive difference there. Probably a little bit. There was definitely a strong representation of female players. In comparison to other card games that I've played in the past. I do feel like Flesh and Blood is a much more inclusive, inviting environment. So that's really cool to see. And like that match against Erica. Honestly, if you want to see a good draft game of Flesh and Blood, go back and watch that round 3, the finals of that draft pod. She is fierce. It was it was such a fantastic match, and she played it phenomenally, and it really came down to the wire. So certainly one of my favorite draft games that I've played, to be honest.
And you were on Dromo, right? Was that the best draft
Yeah.
deck that you said you'd ever drafted ever? Like you got
Yep,
all
I
the
think
dragons?
it was.
Yeah.
I only had a couple of dragons. My deck wasn't really
Oh.
revolved around dragons that much. It was more about the senpais and kind of ending the game very quickly. I had a very aggressive deck. But then Erica's deck was also incredible and very aggressive as well. So it was certainly a clash of the titans there in terms of phenomenal draft decks.
Awesome.
Yeah, that was really cool to see. We're gonna have Erica on the podcast soon to talk about it. We were supposed to do that.
Cool.
When we had to
Then
reschedule with
Melody
you,
got
we
COVID.
rescheduled
Yeah.
with her, and then Melody got COVID, and everything was out of whack. But she will be on here, and but yeah, that game was crazy to watch.
was
A very
awesome.
very good game of Flesh and Blood.
Yeah. So we're going to go down a little bit of a different path with you, Matt.
Okay.
So, like, your reputation within our community precedes you. Most people know your history playing Flesh and Blood. I was telling Elaine the other day that I watched a very old, I think, episode of you on Instant Pod and learned a bit about your history. I didn't know that you used to play chess and all sorts of games, and your old bros with James White. Like, that was really cool for me. So I think a lot of us have heard about your background. You're in a lot of podcasts talking about deck techs and all that sort of stuff, but we want to dig into your background for this section about you as a successful business owner. And I know that you said to me that you're in your 30s, but I mean, when you're in your 20s, most 20-year-olds, right, we're still finishing up at university. I believe you do have a degree anyway. We're going on OEs. So for Americans or anyone that doesn't know, that's your overseas experience in New Zealand. That's when you come of age and you pack your bags and you travel around the world. Or you're pretty...
leave our small island for the big bad world. Yep.
Yeah, for the big, yep.
But when we were writing this episode, Melody typed that out, and I was like, "You're gonna put a note in there to explain that because I don't know what that is as an American."
Yeah, we go on adventures over here as young people, but also, in your 20s, you're still kind of finding your way in life. Most 20-year-olds have no idea what they're doing. Some do, but you went against the grain. You're a young entrepreneur. You've got multiple successful businesses. Tell us a little bit how you built that empire and where it all started and where it all came from. What was the drive behind it?
Oh, it's I guess a pretty in and out story and big story really. But yeah, I mean I've been in this industry for ever. I started selling Yu-Gi-Oh cards when I was 12 years old. I had a little market stand. I'd go there every weekend and set up my little stand, and I'd be buying these Yu-Gi-Oh cards off a parallel importer that was bringing them from the US, and I'd be selling them. I was doing that at 12, so I've actually been in the industry for a long time.
Wheeler dealer.
Little wheeler dealer 12-year-old man. It was a fun time. But yeah, I stopped doing that. I went to uni quite early. I got discretionary entrance into uni. So when I was doing my degree, I couldn't even drink or anything like that.
How old were you?
And so I finished.
I'll say really.
15.
You were 15. Sorry.
Yeah, I was a little bit of a nerd. I was a little bit of a nerd at school. So yeah, got into uni early. Did all of that early. So I kind of started that young 20s sort of life or whatever quite early. I got a job as an accountant and business advisor at 18, and kind of started my professional career then. So yeah, I was a little bit of a hard out. Study nerd and a bit of a try hard. But yeah, so I worked as an accountant and business advisor. Did that for a couple of years, but I started playing Magic, and I kind of grew up playing Magic and was sort of involved in this industry, and got to the point where I ultimately just really I was getting a bit bored of accounting, and the business advisory side was getting frustrating. So I kind of just wanted to do it myself.
For all our audio only listeners, my jaw's been on the floor.
So is mine.
I'm so happy that we decided to talk about your business path now rather than your player path, because we all are player. We all got into the game somehow, usually from other games or friends. But wow, like I am blown away. I cannot believe that. That is
Sorry, continue. We just butted in because
yeah.
we're getting
Please
excited.
tell us
Sorry,
more.
Matt. Sorry.
Yeah, no. That's all right. So yeah, in my 20s, ultimately, I decided I wanted to get back into this industry and kind of do this. And I finally mustered up the courage to open a gaming store. So I opened my first LGS, and yeah, Card Merchant was born. And then from that, I got really good reception from the community and the player base, and kind of grew that up. Opened a second store, and then a third, fourth, etc. And now I've since franchised off Card Merchant, and left that business. But yeah, when I sort of had a bunch of stores. Because in New Zealand, we never really had a distributor. We never really had a distributor on the ground here. We were mainly getting things from Australian distributors. So I was bringing in a lot of stuff for my stores from the UK and from USA, Asia, etc. And helping out a bunch of other smaller retailers that were struggling to source product. And so basically that eventually culminated in setting up a distribution company. I was already distributing a lot of product
Wow.
around New Zealand just to help the stores out. And that opened up a few doors and some opportunities when some of the bigger publishers wanted a on the ground New Zealand distributor. They offered it to me. So then from that came Geek Culture Distribution, and that's kind of been my main focus of the last few years. I resigned from Card Merchant and moved on from that last year, and then also last year I started Premier Card Grading, which is I guess the same sort of thing as Geek Culture. Geek Culture was started through a need and necessity to kind of help correct some things that weren't being served correctly within our industry. And I think PCG was sort of had the same aim. There was long wait times and inconsistent grading and stuff across kind of the bigger companies, and it was making it far too hard. So I kind of had this vision of bringing grading on the ground as a kind of a local approach to things. So I wanted to start a grading company with an aim to open offices around the world, not just have one in the US, like a lot of the bigger grading companies. So so we've since opened in USA, Australia, Malaysia, and New Zealand. So that's really kind of the focus for PCG there now. So
a quick question, just while we're reeling from the story. How old were you when you started Card Merchant?
I think when I first launched online, I think 24.
Okay, that's like my age. Wow. Okay.
I got bored with accounting at 18.
What an incredible story,
That
Matt.
is an incredible
Yeah, what an incredible
story.
Wow.
I'm blown away.
Me too. I'm like, wait, let me look back at the show notes because now I'm just speechless.
Yeah, I've had a lot of sort of privileged opportunities, and it's I've made a really fun life out of it. So yeah.
Yeah, you've done some incredible things. It's really amazing.
Inspiring.
So in case it wasn't obvious, Melody and I have a lot of admiration for you and
thank you.
not your story, but also how you just balance being an entrepreneur and all your businesses alongside also just being this world-class player. Like we think it's kind of crazy, honestly, because we can barely manage to record one episode of Pitch Perfect a week. So how do you how do you manage all of your commitments?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm just surrounded by incredible people. To be honest, a lot of my key staff across the businesses have been with me since day one, and yeah, we've really built this up together. So I just have people that surround me, including my partner Shelley as well, that are just incredibly supportive and hardworking and just really, really passionate about this industry. So it's kind of been easy. I guess maybe easy is not the right word. I'll get slapped for saying that. But it's sort of been, it hasn't, it's sort of been really nice because we care so much, because we're so passionate about the industry. Like for me personally, I wake up every day quite excited for what I'm going to achieve this week or this day or whatever, because everything I'm doing, I actually just love. I just love this industry inside and out. So for me, I find, I'm very happy, and I find this a lot less hard than it looks.
Yeah. How do you have time for or coordinate time with your testing partners? I know you're on Team Dragon Shield, but like I said, like it's here, Melody and I on opposite sides of the world trying to coordinate two people for an
And
hour.
Elaine doesn't even have a job, but we still can't.
Yeah, I don't even have. Thank you, Melody.
Sorry.
So, like, what are some of the unique challenges that come with being involved in so many different aspects of the TCG space, from player to
I mean, there's a lot of challenges, especially with time zones and stuff, and dealing with businesses and stuff, and testing partners that all live in different sides of the world. I mean, I'm just quite strict with everything on sort of scheduling and making sure that I kind of squeeze everything in, just kind of do the best I can. Ultimately, I'm not going to be able to play for 10, 15 hours a week or whatever, like a lot of the top players are. Mm-hmm. So I just have to make sure that the time that I am spending, if it's 5 hours a week or whatever, is just very, very productive, focused time. My main thing is just trying to be quite strict with myself and others around the time that we are putting in, and making sure that it's productive and we're learning as much as we can, and kind of, moving towards those goals as efficiently as possible.
We really appreciate you for
Sorry.
Definitely. Well, no, I was just gonna say, we really appreciate you finding the time to take an hour and sit down and talk to us today.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah. You guys are amazing. I'm honored to be invited on.
Oh, thanks for joining us.
I know. All right. Our next question is just, what do you enjoy most about being an entrepreneur? Like, what are your biggest highlights doing that?
Yeah, I think I sort of answered that with what I was just saying before, is just the fact that I get to wake up every day excited about what I'm going to accomplish. Like, everything in my life is goals, right? I've got, I've always got 20 different things that I'm working towards, right? And every single day I'm getting closer and closer to achieving those goals, and then more goals are being set and come along, etc. So I think it's just really enjoyable and exciting all the time that I'm kind of achieving the things that I set out for, and that I kind of working towards things. And it's all stuff that kind of buzzes me up, right? It's all stuff that I'm passionate about and care about, and feel like I'm actually making serious difference in my little industry in the world, So it's just a lot of fun.
Your passion shows through, Matt. 100%.
Definitely.
Yes. That's awesome. So before we move on to our next section, we want to talk a little bit about PCG and your recent partnership with LSS. Congratulations. It's fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, it is awesome. I was talking to Elaine, and I'm like, how many other businesses have partnerships with them? I mean, there's CFB and maybe one other. So, and this little old company from New Zealand, another
Dragon
one.
Shield as well, yeah.
Yeah, Dragon Shield. So there's 4, and you're one of them. So that's a massive accomplishment. This is obviously great for you as a business owner, but what do you think that the partnership, or how is this partnership important from a player's perspective, do you think?
Yeah, so I mean, the main thing of the partnership, the main thing to take away of the partnership, is that we're effectively an external QC for them. So, a lot of other industries in the world, say if you're in food industry or anything like that, you've got health and safety inspections and kind of things like that to ensure that your product is of high quality. But for the TCG industry and printing cardboard, etc., there's no sort of extra external checks being done there, right? You print cards, you send them out, and hopefully your players love them. So for the whole thing with this partnership is LSS are kind of on the front foot. They're going out and finding a company that is, that has expertise in card quality and kind of what the best things that a player wants to receive, in their prizes or whatever, be it basically the quality of the card, anything that's to do with, corners, edges, surface, roller lines, all of the things like that, like correct centering, everything like that. So, why this is important is basically that we are another quality checkpoint. So they'll print the cards, or Cardamonde will print the cards, they'll do their little quality checkpoint and kind of bin off the things that aren't quite right there, but then we give it a second check. We give it a more advanced and thorough check for all the little details like that they're not really worrying about, and then which ultimately means when it comes to the player's hands, it is a pristine card, or it is a very mint copy of what they're going to get. So it just means that for players winning these big events and winning these big prize cards, they get a possession that they can really really treasure, something that is just immaculate, rather than something that has kind of roller lines on it or chips on the corners or whatever, or is just way off center and just doesn't look as nice. I think what's really important to LSS and James specifically is that the things that people winning in these events and the things that they're going to keep and cherish are just beautiful showpieces as well. He has a lot of pride in the cards that he produces and the artwork and everything like that. So he doesn't want these chips and lines and off centering and stuff to take away from that. So he's kind of gone out of his way to involve an external company to add an extra checkpoint process to that.
That's awesome. And I have a question, which wasn't part of the show notes though, as part of that process, I don't know if you guys get a batch of the cards and then you do a whole heap of grading and you only give them the 9.5s, destroy the rest. Don't know what happens, but does LSS, if you got something that was perhaps subgrade, you might not be able to talk about it, but if you did, is LSS taking any feedback from you guys about the quality of the cards that you're grading and going, okay, look, we've got okay.
Absolutely. So basically we receive a batch of cards that Cardamonde has printed. We go through and we pre-grade all of them. Anything that isn't hitting a 9 or higher goes into a to be shredded box effectively. And then LSS actually shred those cards and get rid of them. They're not in circulation. They only want the kind of the cards that pass those quality checkpoints to be in circulation. But then on top of that, they are seeking advice. We do notes for them on the different print runs of cards, and we actually met with Cardamonde in Protour Lille, because they're so Cardamonde, the factory that prints their cards, are only sort of only an hour away. So they traveled to the Protour and kind of met with me, and we just sat down and discussed a lot of the quality issues and kind of what's achievable, what's been achieved in other games, what we're seeing across the board, and what we've kind of feedback for Fab specifically for them as well. So
there are going to be a lot of happy people hearing that. Lots of happy people.
I'll say you turn your trip to Lille even more productive than just
he's doing business, he's playing, he's casting, he's doing everything.
It all combos in, right? If it's all in the same industry, it's easy and fun. It all just ties in.
So our last question for the section, and maybe if you want to give us any hints or any hints, are there any projects on the horizon for you that you might be able to share with us and our audience? Anything coming up?
I mean, there's heaps. There's so much going on. I mean, for PCG specifically, we're working on completely changing our labels over to metal, which I think is going to be fantastic. They pop so much better. They look stunning as a showpiece. We're creating a case that's specifically for playing with equipment and fab. So a much smaller case that's less clunky and stuff that people can, wear the labels on the back so that people can play with it and not have these big clumpy slabs that they're having to move around and stuff on their boards. So yeah, so I think that's going to be really cool. But yeah, honestly, there's lots of little bits and pieces of things going on. But yeah, I won't spoil everything because some things may not come out or may not work out in the end, and other things will, etc. And yeah. But stay tuned. I always love to have a lot going on.
Yeah, no, because that's very clear. And just a question: so with your metal, the metal printing, because you did show me, you probably don't remember, but you showed me a video in Hamilton of that. Yep. Are you guys going to get a laser cutter?
Yeah. So that laser cutter that I showed you from that video, that is in the New Zealand PCG office. So we are laser engraving those labels now. So yeah, we're still having to go for a few software tweaks. Like we need to, we're in the middle of writing a program that basically makes our back end PCG thing talk to this laser machine and kind of be able to print that way. But once all the software kinks are worked out and we have it in a way that we can produce these labels, fast and be able to do them for hundreds of cards a day, we're going to roll that out. We're going to send laser engravers over to all of the offices throughout the world and completely roll it out as a full service. So I'm really excited about that one because they look really amazing.
Cool. They do. All right, thank you, Matt.
That's awesome. We have a lot of fun things in the works, so that's very exciting. So we have talked a lot on this podcast before about how people tend to place a lot of pressure on the players to create inclusive gaming spaces, but we also think it's important to remember the role that LGS owners play in that endeavor. So we want to talk a little bit about your experience when you were an LGS owner and the responsibility that LGS owners have to foster welcoming, inclusive environments. We're going to move on to that topic.
Yep.
Yeah, cool. So in your experience as a former LGS franchisor and owner, did you set any expectations with your store owners around inclusivity and player behavior? And if so, what were they?
Yeah, so I think that is something that's been very, very important to Card Merchant, and something that we kind of built our brand on as well, is creating that really inclusive environment. And it's something that we went through not just with franchisees, but with all staff that work for any Card Merchant, and that really the biggest thing for us as an LGS was that community building was the number one focus. So when you approach everything with that being sort of the number one thing, it sort of automatically cuts out a lot of problems that many LGSs face. Is that if every single staff member working for the store knows that community building is more important than sales, it's more important than efficiency, it's more important than everything else, then it really kind of sets the gearbox and the focus for each staff member. So for Card Merchants, the staff are very focused on kind of checking in with players. A staff member doesn't just start a tournament and sit at the front of the store and just serve people that come by. It's really important throughout the gaming nights and any events or anything like that the staff are interacting throughout the play area as well, that are kind of listening to banter and talk between the players and just kind of checking in on every single person throughout events. Not to the point where it's pushy and kind of in your face or anything like that, but if there's banter between people or there's things that are being said or whatever, it's really important that the staff have a general idea of what how that communication between players is happening and what they can do to intervene to help things and make sure that people aren't talking about inappropriate things when when others are listening and others are around, and knowing that, just kind of those little taps on the shoulder of, hey, we've got 12-year-olds in the store, and even if we don't right now, we might tomorrow, and other players, and it's just, people aren't appreciating that, and it's just not appropriate, and it's just about sort of that clear communication and that clear expectation on players that we are creating, a family-friendly environment. People, I want any mother of say a Pokemon or Fab player that's sort of 11 or 12 or something to feel comfortable bringing their son or daughter in, and then leaving and coming back a couple of hours later, knowing that they're surrounded by a bunch of adults as well, and teenagers and people like that. It's just so important for the progress and the building of our store that people feel comfortable in that environment. So it has been something that's absolute number one top priority. It's all over our, it's all over our card merchant, our franchise guide and stuff like that. Everything, that is constantly drummed in, as that community building and environment is our number one focus.
That is awesome. That is,
Yeah.
and I've experienced that. Like I've played once. I played once for ProQuest in Card Merchant, and it was, not only was the store incredible, the staff were incredible. You actually happened to be working that day, Matt. But the judges, it was inclusive. I mean, we had a whole mashup of people that attended, and I think it's really important. And just having people walking around, not butting into conversations like you say, but lending an ear, and scanning across, maybe looking at playmats, making sure there's age appropriate and
Exactly.
appropriate stuff being used is important, because I have been into some stores where they do just sit behind the counter. And there are kids actually playing, and it's like, and I personally have had to intervene in horrible conversations, be like, hey, we've got an 11-year-old girl here, you need to stop talking about that. And
this is just not
that's
appropriate for this
not
environment.
appropriate at all. But if people were sort of hanging around, but I don't mind doing that as a player. Like, I feel it's my responsibility. But it's great to know that when you were with Card Merchant, that's what you instilled in your franchisees and the staff. I think it's really, really important. So that's awesome. Yeah. What about you, Elaine?
Definitely. I mean, well, I've never been to a card merchant store over here.
You
in the
will
US,
one day. In New Zealand.
Say one
You
day.
have to come for a trip to New Zealand. Yeah.
Yeah. Melody has told me nothing but great things. And I mean, just listening to you answer that question instilled a lot of faith for LGSs everywhere, in my opinion, because I've had like experiences going to ProQuest or Skirmish, these events or tournaments that are hosted by LGSs rather than like going to nationals. They're calling. They're smaller events at little LGSs, and I've definitely had experiences where I've felt overlooked as a female player by the LGS workers. Like, I've gone before and walked in with a group of males, and they like hand out a deck sheet to everyone except for me as the only female, and I'm like, hey, I'm also here to play. And I've had comments being, we thought you were just gonna watch, or like, if I sometimes as extreme as like going to these LGSs, and there's not even there's one bathroom and it's marked male. And it's like,
gosh.
why are we not just marking like restroom, and I can only kind of assume, I guess, that these experiences stem from stereotypes that TCG players are male and not females. So is there anything you kind of already answered this because you answered the question very thoroughly, but do you have any other advice for LGS owners, things they can do to kind of break down these stereotypes to help ensure that all players who walk into the store have a positive experience and feel welcome and included when attending these smaller level LGS hosted tournaments?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is to have it as a topic of comment in staff meetings and stuff like that. And it's something I think the biggest thing is to make sure all of your staff have it on the back of their mind and are self-reflecting. You know, if they have an experience and afterwards they're like, oh, that wasn't quite right. It's really important that I think that that those staff kind of reflect that and talk to each other about that. And I saw your interaction with a certain player or person that came into the store, and these were some things that I think could have been improved, and that we can probably focus a bit better on next time. I mean, we're all human, we're all going to make mistakes, and we all need to accept that we have some natural just basically that some things might take a little bit of work to get out of those kind of things that are kind of naturally ingrained in us, and that we may have to change our behaviors and stuff to better create that inclusive environment. So I just think it's really important for LGS owners to make sure that it's on the minds of every single staff member, and to make sure that you're talking about it regularly. If you're talking about it within your staff regularly, then you're going to help each other, you're going to bump up each other, and you're going to just work better towards creating a better environment, which is going to be better for your business, and it's going to be better for every single player, not even just the female players. It actually has a positive effect on everybody when everybody is in an environment. So much about LGS is you can go there after work or whatever, and you don't have to work's full of stress and all the rest of that, and this is just kind of a chill out, relaxed zone where you get to interact with a bunch of people. And if everybody's having fun and everybody's having a good time and everybody feels really comfortable, that's a way nicer environment for every single person to relax in than an environment where one person feels like they're being left out a little bit, or that they're being treated differently, and then it all kind of becomes a sort of tense and less relaxing atmosphere.
Yeah.
Creating
Very
a
well
good
said.
culture. Yeah. Articulate as well.
100%.
Articulate. All right, cool. We're going to move on to playmats and card sleeves, and we talked about it a little bit before. So LSS, they do a brilliant job with the artwork in Flesh and Blood. The representation of women is age appropriate. We don't see sexualization of women. And we especially are appreciative as women, Elaine and I. And it's definitely one aspect of the game that helps us to feel welcomed. There's no titties hanging out and all the horrible stuff that I've seen. And that's not in our show notes, but I've seen other card games and I'm just like, gross. That's not me.
So have we, and we're appreciative of that as well. We're just certainly in the past as an LGS, I've had some new card games in and looked at them and been like, okay, we're never ordering this again. This is horrible. This is just ridiculous.
And so like the woman, the heroes are badass, right? They're strong, they're mana wahine, and they've got inspiring stories. So we want to talk a little bit about that, because there's been some playmat card sleeve talk happening in our space lately. Elaine, did you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so I think now that we have this pitch perfect space, women can connect, talk a little bit more about things they've experienced. And one thing I think that a lot of women have experienced is that these multiple instances of players using playmats or sleeves depicting nude, sometimes nude or just inappropriate,
gross
imagery on their playmats and cards. And I think as women, the common trend is that is a very uncomfortable experience and an objectifying one also. So do you think that LGS owners have any responsibility in monitoring, because they're not flesh and blood playmats or card sleeves, obviously we don't really have that in our game, but monitoring these non-flesh and blood gaming accessories being used at flesh and blood tournaments?
Yeah, I think LGS have all of the responsibility there. I think you're as a business owner, you're responsible for creating that environment, and we've got, I guess, in other industries, like video rental and stuff. There's sort of outside agencies that help to kind of monitor that for you or whatever. And,
Mm.
there's things that are PG-13 and 16 and stuff like that. But in this industry, it's not so much to that effect. I mean, still the boosters are PG-13 or whatever, but a lot of these outside things where people can put whatever art they want on something and get it printed, then the buck really has to fall on the LGS owner and the LGS staff members to be able to figure out what is appropriate there, and take that responsibility and pull a player aside and say, hey, this isn't really acceptable. What do you think about this? And usually it's just education, right? It's just informing people. It doesn't have to be you get out of my store right now because you've got a thing. It's just if you talk to a player about it and you explain kind of the reasonings why and why that would make people uncomfortable and why that's worse for them as well because less people are going to play the game, etc. People are, for the most part, reasonable, and people are going to understand. And then that means that it doesn't just mean that they're not going to bring that objectionable stuff into your store. It might mean that they don't bring it into any store anymore as well, which is means that you've done a great service to the community. Whereas if you just kick them out of their store, they'll just be like, oh, fine, I'll go take my stuff and play it somewhere else. So absolutely, that comes down to the LGS and to those and to the staff there to create that environment within their store. Yeah.
And educate the person too, right? So that they understand.
Yeah.
The education's the biggest part. Okay, so now take off your LGS owner hat, put on your player hat. Do you have what's your opinion on speaking up about it if you're a player and see this happening at a tournament? Because there's obviously a difference, right, between just being a player and seeing someone besides you using this. Than if you're an LGS or a TO. Do you think that there's still a responsibility there to say something?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think it just comes down to what's good for the goose is good for the gander or something like that, right? Like if you can make a positive change, any small little positive change, it's going to affect you too, right? It's going to affect the entire environment. So why would you not? Maybe it is a little bit hard, especially if you're not a super extroverted person. Maybe it is a little bit hard to come forth and say something, but it's hard for everybody, and if you do it, it's going to be positive for others and yourself, right? So I think it kind of falls on all of us. I think everybody. It's the same reason that we exercise or eat healthy or anything like that. Everybody, wants to kind of better themselves or whatever. But it just makes sense to better our whole environments and our friends and people around us and everything to kind of build us all up together, right? So yeah, I think if you have an opportunity to speak up and to be able to make a positive change there, you should take that as an opportunity as a player, rather than something that's scary and daunting, which it may be. It is absolutely an opportunity, for something really positive. So why not just get in there?
Yeah, I agree, and I think the approach is also something that needs to be considered, right? Like you said it before, as an LGS owner or somebody, a staff member, you're not going to be like, get the hell out of my shop. It'll be like maybe taking that person aside, having a quiet word, not being like, oh my God, what the hell is that? Get rid of it. It'll be like, look, this is inappropriate because of X, Y, Z, whatever. Like you can still make it a nice-ish experience without making somebody feel absolutely horrible. I think approach is really important as well.
Yeah, I think it's just about having a human to human talk, really, isn't it? We're not always going to know exactly the right, perfect thing to say in that scenario, and I really put to people that just because you don't know the perfect thing to say doesn't mean you should say nothing, right? Like most people are generally reasonable, so let's just have a conversation, even if you don't know what to say. Start some sort of conversation, and they'll kind of get what you're saying, and just talk about it, and I'm sure a positive thing can come out of that.
Yeah,
I agree.
Really, really good point. I completely agree with everything you said.
So let's end on a high note. All this talk about all this stuff. We would love to know what your proudest moment or achievement has been as an LGS owner.
Okay, I swear to God, this is not set up for this podcast. This is going to sound so set up because it honestly ties in perfectly with everything that you guys are doing and what you're about.
I'm so excited.
We're ready.
I swear, this is honestly. This, this is honestly, my business partner and I have talked about it a couple of times. This was honestly our proudest moment. It was about 3 years ago, and it was at a Magic pre-release, and we had a Magic pre-release of 41 players, where 21 of those were female. So we actually had, like, honestly, I swear, and it's baffling even to this day, but we actually had a pre-release, a large pre-release with more female players than male, and we knew that we'd worked really, really hard to build that environment, and that was the fruits of it. It was just incredible, and we are a card store where we have more female staff than male, and that's not, we haven't purposely made it that way, but it's just how it's happened. But we worked really, really hard on creating an inclusive environment, and it was about 3 years ago, and that's when it really stapled in that we've actually made incredible change in this industry that that others would have looked at and said that's impossible, that's never going to happen, and we did it, and so we're really, really proud of that.
I wish we'd asked this at the beginning, because now I have a million more questions.
I know, but I am like, I can't even tell you the amount of joy that brings me. I mean, there was no doubt that you were the right person for this episode and to talk about this. But if there ever was any, you've completely squashed that. That's wow.
So can I ask just a couple of questions? Sorry, not in show.
Go ahead.
So how does an LGS, I mean, we've talked about inclusivity, right? And you talked about having female staff that, you just have a great culture at Card Merchant. But 21 females, that's 50% for a Magic the Gathering tournament. How did you do that? Because you said you'd been working towards
it was
building
crazy,
it up.
Wasn't it?
Did you go out to schools? How did you do that?
No, I mean, just generally, a lot of our limited events and stuff were, a good portion of female. It was sort of like a 70-30 for a lot leading up to that anyway. Wow. But yeah, I think all of the, a lot of our female players, I guess, kind of teed up with each other and said, "Hey, this is the pre-release where we want to all go and all hang out together and stuff." And so that ended up just being the one. Yeah, I mean, we ran, I think, 5 or 6 pre-releases that release, and not all of them were like that, obviously. But yeah, I think, in terms of our draft events, a lot of the Friday Night Magic and stuff, at that time we were sort of seeing, if we'd get, 16 players at an F&M, usually about 6 of them would be female. That was, that is something that we worked on and built up over time. But yeah, it sort of culminated with that event being like, oh my gosh, we actually fired a large event where there was more female than male, and I've never seen anything like that before, and not seen anything since, unfortunately. But yeah, we can strive to do it in Fab as well, I'm sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's the best answer we could have asked for, right, Elaine?
I know.
I swear
I wasn't expecting that at all.
No, neither was I.
Wow. All right, we're going to move on to our listener questions. So our first question comes from Lynette, Fabled Hero NZ, on Twitter.
Lynette is awesome. Big shout out to Lynette. Yeah.
Lynette says, having played a lot of other TCGs, how do you feel the culture of Fab is different, and why do you think that is?
Yeah, so I mean, I've played a lot of TCGs over the years, and the culture in Fab is certainly the most positive and inclusive that I've seen. And I think it kind of comes down to is that a lot of people, kind of left and gave up on other games, as kind of negative as that is to say. And Fab came out at a later date, sort of targeted more towards an older player base, and a lot of the people that had kind of given up on other communities and stuff for the reasons, I guess for those exact reasons that they didn't feel inclusive and stuff, kind of gave Fab a go, and we brought in a lot of those people together, and we created that community ourselves. And I think that there's certainly been ups and downs with it, and there's certainly a lot of ways to go. But I think we came here with the mindset at the start that this was going to be different, and this was going to be not the negative things that we've experienced in other games before, and we kind of have built the roadblocks from there.
Yeah. That's awesome. So I'm going to ask the second question, which is from another Kiwi, Georgia. Georgia asks, yes, do you think the meta is in a healthier place now that Prism's reign of terror is over and winter has finally come?
Yes. 100% agrees. So, I'm a big fan of Ice Heroes. I love Icelander. I love Oldhim, and I love kind of the slower mid-rangey heroes like Dash and stuff as well. And mid-range and control was really pushed out by Prism. It was very, very hard to win those matchups. So with Prism gone from the fold, I think it's really allowed those decks to come out and breathe. And I think that ultimately, at least for right now, that's healthy. Maybe it'll keep going into this point where control and mid-range is the only thing viable because nothing's keeping it in check. So I don't know if it'll get to that point or not. But right now, we're in a really, really healthy place, and we'll just kind of see how it plays out from here.
Awesome.
Okay. The ice heroes are not my favorite. But...
Not your favorite?
I'm in love with Icelander.
I love that question from Georgia.
Yes.
I really like Icelander too, but also I don't know. I kind of want to revisit them. I'm in the middle of testing for nationals right now, and I'm like, I know this is the way to go, but I've never really enjoyed playing against them. But I'm kind of curious to play. I feel like a lot of the Oldhams I've seen have been a little bit more aggressive, and I think I might like that better than where Oldham was having to be super controlled. So.
Trying to fatigue out every matchup is very boring. The more aggressive mid-range Oldham decks that can block when they're going super aggressive or attack them when they're not, I think are a lot more fun.
I'm gonna revisit it. But anyway, our next question is from Flake, and Flake asks, "What is an aspect?"
Flake, we hope you're listening. He doesn't remember you.
He has no clue you are. Also, Flake said to tell you hi. He did say to tell you hi.
Hi, Flake.
But his question is, what is an aspect of casting that you completely underestimated? Something you didn't think would be as difficult, or something you didn't even have on your radar as a skill that you might need?
Okay, so I guess the fact that you have to talk constantly, there can't really be any downtime. There can't really be there can be little bits of pauses here and there, but you're talking seconds. So what I really underestimated about casting is it's really easy for me to bring some energy into watching a game. I love watching games, and it's just for me naturally. If I'm watching, even in the past when I've been watching Magic Pro Tour top 8s and stuff like that, I'm almost naturally commentating, with my friends watching, talking about the game and stuff all the time anyway. But what I didn't quite realize with casting is you have to do that, but more than double. You just can't stop. You have to just be constantly talking about everything that's going on. You can't just stop and sit there and be like, and sort of, kind of wait for something quite crazy to play out or whatever. Yeah, well, because for me, a lot of the time I get to the edge of my seat and I'm like, what's going to happen here? But with casting, I got to remind myself, no, wait, I can't stop and wait. I have to actually still be talking through it. So, which was it's cool. It's cool, but it's quite hard. It's you sort of have to be 100% on it.
It's interesting
Yeah,
though, listening
I've
to
never
Flake
considered that. But
and you, like, you guys had great chemistry in the casting booth. And
Flake. I mean, yeah, I don't want to blow up his ego, but that man is very, very talented. It makes it. It's
yes,
my job in the booth is a lot easier than his. He, that the way that he kind of carries it and flows it, and I can just kind of go off him the whole time makes it a lot easier for me. And honestly, I don't have the talent to do what he can do.
you have other talents, many other
stuff
talents.
you'd like.
we'll see if he listens to this.
Yeah.
Did you want to do Adam D's one? Because Flake also
Yeah,
asked
we
if you're
can
single, but you're clearly not because you've got Shelley.
No, I have a very loving and supporting partner, Shelley. We've been together for about 5 years, and I couldn't be happier.
Okay.
the
Cool.
bromance.
Yeah.
Sorry, Flake.
Adam D, who is Moonside Man, he did the Ragamuffins cosplayer. He does
Oh yeah,
a little bit of cosplay. Yeah. He said, no questions from me for Matt, but I do want to say thanks to him for being a champion of the game. I met him at the Calling Cincinnati the day before the tournament at a local draft.
Yeah.
I had never drafted Tails before, and he graciously facilitated the draft for everyone, as well as shared high-level advice and perspective on draft archetypes. I had no idea he was such a decorated, accomplished player, although his skills told the story instantly, and he didn't seek any attention or recognition. And I always appreciated him for that and his kindness. So just wanted to give you a quick
Oh, thank you. Thanks for those kind words. I'm glad that you took something away from it. Yeah, no.
Yeah. All right, so I guess we're gonna go ahead and wrap things up. We're gonna do it the same way we wrap up the show with every guest. So we always ask our guests this general question, just kind of to get an idea from our audience. But is there any topics or content that we have yet to cover on Pitch Perfect that you'd like to see? Like something from this podcast that you're not seeing right now? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think. Sorry, just had a message come through. Yeah, okay, that threw me. Yeah, I mean, honestly, what you guys are doing is amazing so far. It would be cool to see some more sort of high profile people being interviewed about about where where they see the game in the future and where we see things going as well. I'd love to see a few more talks about that and kind of what we where we're going to be 3-5 years from now, etc. But yeah, I think what honestly, I'm so happy that you invited me on this podcast. I think what you guys are doing is amazing, and I think that you are creating really positive change and having people talk about all of the right things that need to be talked about in our communities as well. So thank you so much for the job that you do.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, and thanks for being on our show today, Matt. So now here's your opportunity to plug yourself, your websites or socials, or basically where people can find your businesses or where you might want to send them to go and find you. Or PCG maybe.
Yeah, I guess premiercardgrading.com or .co.nz if you're in New Zealand, .com.au if you're in Australia, etc. Premier Card Grading is kind of my big push at the moment. And I love creating fab content as well. There's Fab with Matt. An episode comes out every month on Channel Fireball. So definitely check that out. I think I'm going to do, in a couple of days, I'm going to do a real in-depth Dash profile on it. To sort of talk about my favorite hero and Fab. So I'm really excited about that. Yeah, if you're interested in Dash or want to know more about how to play it or even just how to play against it, definitely come and check that out.
Awesome. So that's on. So if they go to Channel Fireball, do they just type in Fab with Matt, or how would they find that?
Yeah. Yeah, otherwise you can just go to, I think it's articles or content, and then click Flesh and Blood. They usually come out around about the end of the month. I sort of record them midway through the month, and then they kind of come out, week 3 or week 4 of the month. So probably in a couple of weeks, go check that out. But I posted up on the Flesh and Blood fan page on Facebook as well, and Channel Fireball always tweets it out. So if you follow them and you check out their tweets, whatever, you can find it that way when it drops.
That's cool. We'll put some of those
Awesome.
links in there.
Thank
I'll go
you.
find the links and we'll put them in the show notes as well. So if anyone wants to find them. Awesome. So thank you so much for joining us this week. And everybody, until next time, ka kite. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.